Hello everyone. So it's Christmas Eve. Quite an uneventful day really here. No snow outside. It doesn't really feel like Christmas compared to other Christmases. Anyway, I thought I'd just upload a video. And in this video I want to talk about religion and atheism. Now, I may or may not have mentioned in some of my previous videos, I regard myself as something of an agnostic. I don't exactly believe in organised religion, but I believe in something. I just can't entirely establish what. I'm still learning, I'm still deciding that. I believe in God, actually. I think in recent weeks, months, I've sort of come to an acceptance that I do believe in some sort of deity. So I'll say God, but I just don't necessarily believe in organised religion. There have been times in my life where I've been quite religious, and there have been times I've been pretty far from any sort of religious views. So at the moment I'm pretty much an agnostic because I just don't know. Although I'm tempted to say I believe in a God. This video really is addressing people I regard as militant atheists. And I have actually seen quite a lot of this. I believe it's a sort of natural response to religious fundamentalists. But there's a few points I'd like to make. It's actually interesting how much militant atheists and hardline religious fundamentalists have in common. Both try to force their views onto others. Both are very dogmatically, stubbornly cling on to their notion. In the case of hardline religionists, if you don't believe in God, you'll go to the fiery pits of hell. In the case of hardline atheists, you're wrong and that's it. Both sides are deeply disrespectful to the other. But this video, I think I've made videos about religious fundamentalists, so this is more aimed at the hardline atheists. And just my apologies, I've got a bit of a mouth ulcer, so if I'm slurring a little, that's the reason why. Now, firstly, this is not against atheists. I want to make that clear. I have no problem with atheists. I can understand their and respect their viewpoint. I don't entirely agree with it, but I completely, they have a right to be an atheist and believe in nothing. My own reasoning for not being an atheist is I believe that the atheist outlook is pretty negative, it's pretty depressing. Because if you believe in nothing, then you're going to have to take the view that when you die you just turn into dust or whatever. To me that's a very depressing sort of notion. I like his phrase, science can explain how, but not why. But I'd also add something to that. Science and religion are not necessarily polar opposites. You do get people who, I've come across Christian scientists, and people who understand physics, who are into science, but they're also Christians and they believe in something. Now some people might say that's not possible, but that's how they identify themselves. My own view is if there was some sort of Big Bang or something, it's maybe I believe there has to be something more than matter. Life has to mean something more than just matter. There must be a greater purpose. And I believe that's why religion has flourished for thousands of years. Now, if you say it's made by man, and it's certainly developed by man, there's no question about that. But the reason it has endured so long is people see security in religion. They see it as something to turn to, as something that provides a greater purpose, so to speak. And I understand that. Now, I don't particularly, like I say, I'm not a practicing religious person. I used to be a Christian, but I hardly ever go to church nowadays unless I'm a sort of accompanying someone, but I just stopped doing that a long time ago. I found it very boring, to be quite honest, but I also just didn't feel I believed in it anymore. Anyway, I want to get to the main point of this video, which is people I regard as militant atheists. Now, I've seen militant atheists, that is people who take their atheism to a level where they really do want to force it on other people. And the reason I use the word militant, or fundamentalist atheist would be another term, is they are basically theocrats in reverse. If these atheists had their way, religion would be illegal. Religious people would not be allowed an opinion. Any form of religious worship would be abolished. Churches, mosques, temples, you name it, will be closed down. Religious people will not be allowed to publicly express their view at all. I do get the impression, looking at some of the comments I've seen from hardline atheists, that's pretty much what they want. To me, that is just as bad as theocratic doctrines trying to force religious laws onto everyone else and so on. I absolutely do not want to live in a society like Iran or Pakistan, which has absurd religious laws, like blasphemy laws. I believe that's just anti-human. But at the same time, I don't want to live in a society where religious people are frightened to publicly state their views, or they cannot worship. You know, religious people have a right to their opinion. This is something atheists have to accept. They have just as much a right to state their views, explain their views, as you do to explain why you don't believe in those things. And atheists tend to, their approach usually is to ridicule people of faith, to brand them all as hardline. I mean, I'll give one example. Quite a lot of militant atheists have this tendency to brand all Christians as being akin to Southern United States Bible Belt homophobe. Basically, they're trying to caricature all Christians as being like Fred Phelps, the pastor of the Westboro Baptist Church. Now, in my experience, I know a number of Christians. I go to a social club every Thursday. That's run by Christians. They put on a forum for international students to meet together. They provide a place for them to relax, to have drinks, snacks, play games, badminton, pool, etc. I've been going there for almost 2 years, and I've never once seen any sort of religious brainwashing. I've never once seen them try to force their views onto anyone. In fact, I barely ever see them even mentioning it. I believe once or twice, maybe at Christmas. But they're good people, they're decent people. And whilst I don't entirely go along with their views on things, I will defend them, because I've seen firsthand that they're decent people. And one thing that atheists will not acknowledge is that there is good work done in the name of religion. They only ever focus on the negative. In the case of Islam, they'll only ever focus on the suicide bombers. In the case of Christianity, they'll only ever focus on the Fred Phelps types. Now, anyone with any common sense will acknowledge these problems exist. But an area that really irritates me about atheists is they want to blame all the world's problems on religion. And that's simply not fair. There are certain problems in society that have absolutely nothing to do with religion. When crime occurs, that's got nothing to do with religion, for the most part. When human rights abuses in authoritarian regimes, that is not a result of religion. And there's many other areas, the damage done by drugs, that's not a result of religion. There's many things that you cannot blame religion for, and it is absurd to say that it is a result of religion. Now, it's absolutely true that religion also causes a lot of problems. A lot of the conflicts in the world have religion at their root, especially in the Middle East and parts of Africa. But that does not mean that religion is responsible for all the world's problems. And then when Christians or other religious people raise this point, will then atheists say things like, oh, but they'll sort of try and turn it around and say, but religion is almost entirely bad. Well, that just isn't fair. Religious people and religious organisations do a huge amount of benevolent work, and in many situations, when in the case of the homeless, for example, the Salvation Army is a Christian organisation that looks after the homeless, and there are many situations where actually it's religious organisations are the very people that those in desperate situations turn to. Now, you may not agree with that, but it's a fact. And I am not saying it's only religious organisations, and I am by no means saying that you have to be religious to do good acts. I totally disagree with that. Atheists can be benevolent people as well, of course they can. But just as atheists can be benevolent people, they have to accept that so can religious people. And yes, that might not be a result of religion, but it does fly in the face of the argument that religion is only bad. And the other thing is, they say that it's only religion only. I've lost my trail of thought here, but the point I'm trying to make is, atheists are completely wrong to try and claim that all the world's problems are a result of religion. And their argument that if you take religion away from the world will be some sort of happy utopia is just irrational. Two of the most brutal regimes of the 20th century, Stalinism and Maoism, were fiercely anti-religion, and yet they were despotic regimes responsible for millions of unnecessary deaths. So the idea that religion alone is to blame for cruelty is just absurd. Atheists will also say things like, you don't have to be religious to do good. But by the same card, it doesn't mean that everything bad has religion. And by the same card, a lot of good can be done in the name of religion. And so what? So what if a Christian wants to demonstrate goodness, benevolence, charity, whatever, and say they're doing that in the name of Christianity, or a Muslim wants to do that? Why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't they be allowed? Now, okay, they shouldn't say that only by being a Christian or a Muslim can you be good. That's arrogant and wrong. But what I'm trying to get at is, I think these militant atheists are guilty of the very sort of arrogance and hypocrisy and dogmatic views and forcing their views onto others as they accuse the religious fundamentalists of being. And frankly, I have no time for either. Also, atheists are simply dismissing 4 billion people in the world as idiots. They're ignoring the fact that for many people religion is of very deep importance. And these aren't stupid people. You have many university educated people, people with PhDs, highly intelligent people, are people of faith. So to dismiss religious people as stupid is it's a stupid statement in itself, when you have so many people around the world who are finding something in religion. Now, I'm not a religious person, but I do respect that fact. I respect that there's something in it. There was another point I was going to make, but I'm afraid I've kind of lost my trail of thought. Although I've pretty much mentioned the sort of emphasis of what I'm trying to get across, which is that just as religious people have no right to force their views onto others, and by the way, there's a difference between people talking about their views and forcing their views. Now, I have no problem with a Christian telling me about their beliefs, so long as they don't try to overdo it and try to say, or come out with some arrogant statement like, you're going to hell if you don't believe in this. But if they say, look, I find Christianity gives me guidance in life, I believe in God, etc., I have no problem with that. Why should I find that offensive? Just like, some atheists get insulted if a Christian offers to pray for them. Why is that insulting? Okay, maybe you don't believe it, but to the Christian that is a good thing. That is something they're doing for you. Maybe you don't believe in it, but don't see it. Why see that as an insult? It's not an insult. It's just now, okay, it is an insult if they're saying they're praying for your soul. But if you're going through a hard time in life and they say they'll pray for things to get back better, I would take that as a compliment. Even if you don't believe it'll work, it's still a compliment. I'll go into another video.